Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome back to Indie Game Business. We have Tim from Player 2 today and Jaku from Crowd Control, and we're going to be talking about how to utilize content creators and that whole world to extend the life of your game, because as we all know, that long tail is so important right now to maximize your revenue and make sure you have enough money coming in to do your next game. So with that, let's start with you, Tim. So tell us how you got into the industry initially, and then walk us through your career so far, and then we'll do the very same thing for Chaco.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Tim with Player 2. I'm one of the marketing managers with Player 2, working with nonprofits as well as business dev and IP and licensing. As far as going back into how I got into the industry, it's funny. Back in 2012, I used to do a little bit of a blog talking about games from E3 and talking about my excitement in games. And a friend of mine had asked me if I'd ever heard of a website called Twitch, where people were live streaming playing video games. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Let me check that out. And from there, it went from being a viewer to being a moderator for a couple of years to even becoming a broadcaster and a partner myself, where I've been broadcasting for over 8 years now. And that has taken me in a lot of different ways. I've been an independent consultant working with nonprofits to help get them into the gaming industry, so that way they can be able to participate with it and tap that revenue that they didn't know actually existed. And it's opened up the opportunity for me to be working with Player 2 now, where I work with some of these companies that are wanting to get into gaming and nonprofits that are wanting to expand within gaming or get started in gaming.
Nice. What about you, Jaku?
Yeah, my introduction into the gaming space was definitely different. My focus for an early part of my career was in information security. I did a lot of pen testing and vulnerability research and things like that for 17 years or so. And I just kind of stumbled onto getting into the world of gaming. Basically, in 2015, a game called Super Mario Maker came out, and for those that are familiar, it's a way for people to make their own Mario levels. And I got really interested in the game because there was a level being posted around saying that this is the hardest level in the world. And a lot of my friends that know me, they're like, oh, you're good at video games, you should beat this level. And so I became the first person to beat, I believe it was called Pit of Panga, P-Break, which was in all these Kotaku articles and things like that. And so by beating that level, I started looking at the Twitch landscape because I wasn't streaming at the time, but apparently a lot of people were trying to beat that level. And, they contacted me afterwards, and I started looking into the space, and I saw that there was like a need for some software, and me being kind of a curious mind and have a little bit of programming background, I developed tools for content creators for this game to help bring interactivity into that space, and it sucked me in. I started streaming myself because how else are you going to really get to know the tools better than if you're using them yourselves? And that evolved into me forming Warp World as a company and bringing on other influencers and content creators and building more software for streamers, and then getting into just more interactivity. So I actually no longer technically am in security at this point. In 2020, I went full in on Warp World and creating software for content creators and developers for games.
All right, so that is like an excellent place to start, because I think that's like some of the evolution a lot of us have had with Twitch, just from the whole, oh, wait a second, I can play games and watch people, or I can either watch people play games, as is like the old dude in the conversation here. I'm not going to lie, that whole thing completely took me by surprise. I'm like, wait, you can what now? Yeah. So how has the interactivity aspect, because we've seen this on Twitch with some like Amazon games, and there's other titles out there as well, how has the interactivity changed that space, and what are some of the newer ways that we're seeing that interactivity happen in Twitch and on streams?
Yeah, I mean, for interactivity, I think that's the big appeal of Twitch over like things like YouTube, and obviously they have their live streaming as well. But for me, I was really interested in being able to talk with the streamer and like that's the start of it, right? That was the start of interactivity, being able to actually communicate with the person playing the game as if you were there. We've seen things then grow, like Twitch Plays Pokemon was probably like the big inspiration for a lot of people, where it's like, wait, you can do more than just chat. You can type in a command and it will do something to the game. And like that opened up a lot of possibilities that like just blew up. And like obviously the Twitch space loved Twitch Plays Pokemon. Like it's still a pretty big stream, but you know, it was huge for the time. It was the first thing of anything. It's the first actual like massive multiplayer game like that where everyone was interacting as one character as opposed to having their own character in like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy 11. You know, since then, yeah, we've seen games really take that to a whole new level with building out interactivities where the chat can choose what happens. You know, plenty of games have them. My entire company's kind of focused on that these days. But like, there's so many more ways to interact these days with like UIs on top of the video player. It's not just chat anymore, and so we've really seen the evolution of this. And I think there's still more to come because companies are embracing it because it helps bring engagement into these games and it makes them more popular because people are like, I want to go and watch this game now because I can only do it while they're streaming. So it's a whole new way to play.
So, like from the agency side, so one, explain a little bit about how Player 2 fits into all of this. So crowd control has tech that they're doing. What are you do? What is your crew doing in the ecosystem?
So with this, we're working with crowd control to kind of get in touch with different game developers and trying to get them to embrace this idea of interactivity, as well as looking at games that they had previously made and wanting to kind of breathe fresh life into that game. So it's funny, we were talking about Twitch Plays Pokemon. I got a master's degree in video game design at Full Sail University, and my master's thesis was on Twitch Plays Pokemon. And I was actually able to get a hold of the developer of Twitch Plays Pokemon, who still wishes to remain anonymous. And I got his data for the first year that he ran that game. And it was amazing just pouring through that data and being able to just write an entire thesis about how amazing this was and where the future of gaming can go with it. So on that aspect of it, with Player 2, we're just trying to get in touch with all of these different companies, whether it be AAA, indie, and trying to get them involved with this, because there's that little aspect as well that not only someone streaming and playing the game, but getting your audience involved in it, and it adds a different difficulty to it. So like we know Dark Souls is already a difficult game, but let's just add some complications with your audience into it to make it just that much harder. And if people really love enjoying being tortured that way, well, you know what, now you have that opportunity.
Yeah, no, Dark Souls is a really fun one to watch because it's already a difficult game, like you mentioned. And I think that's one of the things that we really want developers to understand is like, this is how some people want to play these games. They're not going to play the games how you typically would think it. Like, you would be like, oh, why would someone want to have a game be even harder? Well, they've already played it. They beat it once or twice, and they're like, I want a new challenge, but I love this game. How can I do that? And so tools like crowd control allow for that sort of stuff. Any sort of interactivity gives you infinite replayability, especially when you can increase the difficulty even more.
All right, I got to give a quick shout out. I see my man Hip Hop Gamer is like in chat here, and I know he's been bouncing around CES, hanging out with all the cool people. So thanks for tuning in, man. It's good to see you. All right, so this just seems, you talk about adding layers of difficulty on Dark Souls. This just seems like something that can go completely off the rails when you start like letting your stream, letting your viewers start dictating the things in the game. How on earth do you prevent that or control to a certain extent what they're doing so it just doesn't turn into a complete nightmare?
Yeah, so tools like crowd control, we really think about that sort of stuff, and we have a lot of features that are built into our software that allows the streamer to set kind of those rules. They're able to set cooldowns on effects and the price of effects. They can be done through channel points, bits, and things like that. But you're in control of that sort of stuff. So you're able to set the pricing, you're able to set the cadence. You can be like, hey, you can only do this once. Or you can only do it once an hour, or you all have to work together and pool towards this to happen. So there's a lot of features that we build into that so that it doesn't just completely break the game. A streamer, I saw, like, I love watching our streamers use our software, and one Dark Souls story comes to mind. We have an effect called reset game, like roll credits, where it takes you to the end of the credits and then you start over at the game again. And that activated like 30 times on this guy's stream, with the price increasing every time. So he did 24 hours of Dark Souls. He finally beat it. But he made thousands while doing it, because that's what he set, and his community was there for it, and like they stuck around. And I remember tuning in like 3 or 4 times throughout the day and be like, "You're still at this," and he loved it, and he's done it again. Like, he didn't stop playing the game after that. He's like, "All right, next week we're doing it again."
No, just
Right. Like, I wouldn't be able to do that. Like, I'm amazed at the things that I see with interactivity in games, and the stuff that people actually like are good with. I would be like, "I'm good. Thanks a lot. Have a good rest of your day. I'm leaving."
Yeah, that would definitely set off the explicit language filter on anything that I was working on if I did that. Tim, so what sorts of triggers and what sorts of things are you seeing that add that one most that we'll get into the technical side of how a developer actually integrates this stuff, but what levers are being pulled that you see the most success from when companies are doing these types of integrations?
Well, with these types of integrations, what this allows is it brings in some of the older games, or even games that have been played so many different times that some people just they're tired of playing it. Like an example, and I'm going to use my own experience with crowd control with it, is Minecraft. Everyone has done everything possibly under the sun with Minecraft, as far as building, making technical stuff, making landscapes. It's something that a lot of people have explored, but with crowd control, it adds an extra effect depending on what you set it for. Me personally, I was doing a charity event for St. Jude Play Live, and I added in crowd control for doing Minecraft. And I can't say how many times I died. I can't say how many times people spawned in stuff like a Ravager, they spawned in Silverfish, they spawned on an Ender Dragon, and I'm just trying to build just a mud house. And people would spawn this stuff in, and I have to run for my life because I know I'm about to die, because I barely even have a wooden sword.
So how long does it take you to kill a silverfish with a wooden pickaxe? I mean, that's
yes.
Yes.
So I mean, one of the great things with this is it takes just a common game that a lot of people enjoy and like. And like another good one would be Skyrim. Everyone loves Skyrim. Everyone loves playing multiple playthroughs of Skyrim. Well, let's add in an effect where suddenly your inventory is now full of wheels of cheese.
Well, I mean, that's not bad.
And that's just that's what happens now. So now you have to deal with having your inventory full of wheels of cheese.
Yeah.
Can we do it an activation where it automatically no longer lets you use bows or go into stealth? So, everyone who swears they're going to do a Skyrim run where they're not a stealth archer now actually has to do that. I mean, that's...
Yeah, stuff like that is very possible with the way we build things. So yeah, I don't think we have anything like that right now, but absolutely, I think that's a great idea, because that's one of the things that we love about our software and other software like it, is that it's not just you as a streamer saying, "Hey guys, I'm not going to go stealth at all," and them accidentally going stealth once, or you're like, "Oh, just this once." They can't. Like, you can force them to not do something, and at the end of the day, as a viewer, that's what you want to see. You don't want someone to say, "I'm going to do this," and then they mess up. And like, we're all human. You can mess up. You might not actually intentionally do it, but at least there could be a software barrier. Tim was mentioning Minecraft. Everyone's done everything under the sun in that game. The replayability factor on this sort of stuff is huge, especially there's an entire world of gaming in speedrunning. People play those games day in, day out. We got people like Mitch Flowerpower, who plays nothing but Mario Brothers 3. He's been doing it for like 15 years. And like, he loves the game. He absolutely has to love that game to be able to put that much time into it. But I guarantee you, he gets bored every so often. And so having crowd interactions like crowd control allow him to play that same game, draw that same audience, probably even more now that this feature is enabled for it, and experience the game in a different way, refreshing way for himself, even though it's the same game.
So from the indie dev side, if we're working on a project and we get it launched. It's like, how difficult is it to, integrate this stuff? Are there special triggers that you need to do in the game? What's the integration process? And I swear, Jakku, if you tell me it takes a regular programmer 2 days, I'm going to kick you out of the stream, because that is like the default answer for every piece of tech ever.
It is the default answer. I will tell you my story on it. We have a plugin for Unity. And I'm not a Unity developer. I am a back-end developer. I love JavaScript. I know some C#. I can get into trouble with that. And I was given our plugin, and I'm like, show me how to add one effect. And so our developer, showed me how to add one effect. And within 2 hours, I had 3-4 effects added that did various things. Now, this isn't a demo project. This is not in a real game with, live code and all that stuff. So for me to do it, it was really quick for testing. But we have seen developers take a weekend or two to build it in. Obviously, I would say 2 weeks to a month is probably the average amount of time that we would say. You got to do testing. We're no strangers to that sort of thing. Everyone that's in tech will say, yeah, it takes hours to do. It takes hours to implement, but then it takes days to debug. So I'm going to give you the full answer. It's 2 to 3 weeks is probably a good timeline, with a month being really good.
So once they've got this integration in there, are there tools, are there specific ways to get the word out, aside from that developers only already established channels? Because I mean, that's obviously the big part. You've got so many games out there right now, and it's like Steam's running a Next Fest like every 6 weeks, it seems like. How can these different tools help with the discoverability issue that a lot of developers have?
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of discoverability from interactions. Cult of the Lamb had a specific extension, and they had their own Twitch interactions, which that was like what everyone wrote about. Like, that was the big thing about the game. It was a great game, but the interactions and the extension added more to that. And so like people just flocked to that. News articles and all that got posted. With Crowd Control specifically, we have a large amount of content creators that are always looking for the next game that we support Crowd Control with. Literally every time we add a new game to our list, a user will probably pop in within like 10 minutes, like, hey, I just saw you added this game. Without us tweeting anything, just it's now added to our list of games that you see on our website. And so we constantly have users that are constantly looking for the new content. And so our platform helps right there, because these are streamers that are looking for interactivity, and they're always looking for the fresh new stuff. And so if a new game gets added, that's a huge user base just right there. And we obviously love promoting content creators and games. So we always try to find some really cool content creators to help promote the games when we add new features and new facts to them.
All right. So, but this is all just Twitch right now, right?
Right now, but very soon it will be anything.
And that's my next question. It's like Twitch is fantastic, and a lot of people are on Twitch, but there's also a lot of people that are on, YouTube and even Facebook gaming to
a degree.
Where does that part of the industry need to go to start incorporating some of these other streaming platforms, so it's not, just a Twitch centric thing?
Yeah, that's been a big focus for us in the last year. Personally, we've seen the writing on the wall. We work with content creators all the time, and they're switching platforms. Twitch was great at one point. Who knows where it's going to be? Twitch still, I think, has the best for development resources in terms of extensions and tools for developers to do this sort of stuff. And so we had to take up a lot of the work to get this working. But we're fully integrating into YouTube and Facebook gaming and any other real streaming platform. We're making it easy for anyone on those platforms to just start using this interaction. Because we recognize that as a developer, you don't want to have to be like, oh, we built Twitch support, but oh no, all the streamers are now moving to YouTube, so we alienated half of our user base. We don't want that. And so we started building those tools for that. And we're hoping to have our 2.0 platform out, near the end of this quarter.
In 2 weeks. It's like
in 2 weeks. It only takes 2 weeks. Yeah. And then we're going to do 3 months of testing.
Yes. Then it's going to break. So Tim, from the bigger like agency side, where are you seeing the trends go in terms of these different platforms? Is it still mainly Twitch? Where are YouTube and Facebook going in terms of catching up, passing? I can't even tell you. I know the biggest one right now myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the majority of content creators are still on Twitch. That's where you're going to find a majority of them making content. Now, as time has gone on, new platforms have been added on with doing gaming. Like you said, there's Facebook Gaming, YouTube, even TikTok is starting to launch its live streaming stuff. So content creators are starting to not only branch out into different platforms, maybe they even move and become permanent on another platform. So a lot of them are starting to expand out. Yes, Twitch is still the, kind of the big boss in the pool, but there are a lot of other platforms that are opening up, and it's starting to make it more diversified. And even you have content creators that will make content on different platforms all at the same time to kind of broaden that reach and get exposed to new people. Myself as a content creator, I do Twitch, but I've started to dabble in the TikTok a little bit. I've kind of looked at Instagram a little bit with some of their reels. So it's kind of one of those to where if the content creator wants to expand and wants to grow, they need to look at the other platforms, but they still have that one that they call their home that they will always be on.
Is there a advantage for the developers in terms of just discoverability in games and all this other stuff to be focused on one or the other? Or is it one of those that you just need to be talking to content creators wherever they are?
I think it's better to expand and be as available to as many platforms as possible. That's the best way to get success. But also talking with the content creators, seeing what their needs are on that particular platform itself will help to expand what it is that they're doing. So you don't want them just completely focused on doing stuff for Twitch and making extensions just for Twitch. And then you notice that a group of people that are on YouTube are really enjoying your game and they want something. You have to go, oh, look, I didn't see that. So now I have to plan for it. Now I have to build something, and that's going to take more time. That gets pulled away from the people on that platform. So for the game developers, it's better to make it as available to as many platforms as possible, but also listen to the people that play your game. They're going to be able to tell you what it is that they're looking for, what it is they would like to get added, and then the platform that they're on, what needs they would like for that particular platform.
I always grin when somebody's like, listen to the gamers, because there's so many times, especially like on Twitter and social media, where we don't want to listen to the gamers because they are just,
yeah.
I told somebody the other day,
it could be a double-edged sword, but I think when you look at it, for the most part, a lot of gamers are going to have good things to say, and they're going to have good advice and constructive criticism for games. But then, yes, you do have the ones that are like, I could build a game in 3 weeks and get this released. I don't know why it's taking them, why they had to push it off for another year. I can do this.
It takes 2 days to fix this.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I want to find
the
social networks that Tim's on, because I think he's on different networks than the rest of us right now.
He seems a lot happier.
I'm a little optimistic. Okay, I'm a little optimistic.
So, Jagger, what are the best ways that you've seen these things integrated? And I know it's going to vary from genre to genre, but when it comes to the different integrations that developers can do, which ones stand out the most as being the most effective?
Definitely the ones with extensions, some sort of UI. One of the biggest things that I see when there's some sort of Twitch integrations is you have and we're going to use Twitch integrations because really no one's doing anything on YouTube or anything else right now. You get somewhere it's chat based, and again, Twitch plays Pokemon, great for its time, but nowadays chat is for chatting. Very often will streamers get, they don't get to have part of that conversation, because again, the initial draw to Twitch was always being able to have a conversation with a streamer. If you can't do that because people are typing commands and things are going through the chat, I'm going to go to YouTube and I'm just going to watch a pre-recorded video because it's going to be better. So definitely having these integrations with extensions is a huge deal. It allows for, users to come in and they're not necessarily lost at all, because one of the other things with commands is okay, so you throw a command list at someone, now they got 50 commands they have to figure out how to type and understand. UIs allow them to click the right thing, get the description on stuff. It's a lot easier for everyone involved. You're also able to get a lot more information about what's going on there, because you're not just scraping chat. So anything with extensions has been a huge play. I think has been a huge game changer on that. Like I said, Cult of the Lamb's one of the big ones there, and then Crowd Control. Obviously, we have our extension.
So, I mean, what are like specific examples? So, like, what did the extension in Cult of the Lamb do?
So your followers, it allowed your adding followers to your cult essentially, and tweak your character. So you could go in and tweak your character to look like how you wanted. You customize your avatar. Stuff that you could potentially do in chat, but really it'd be so difficult to have a large audience do. And so like that was really cool to be able to see and do.
So are there genres that it's easier to do this with than others?
I think so. That's one of the big things that I always talk to developers about is like, this sort of interactions might not fit all games. Cult of the Lamb was a perfect one because, you got followers in the cult, you got followers on Twitch. Great. Works out very well. Makes you think. And so,
not saying that Twitch is a cult or anything.
No, not at all.
No. Not that we're openly endorsing building a cult unless it's profitable. So,
a sports game could be really cool for this. Having your audience be able to pick your next play in football could be a really good interaction. That could allow for some really fun moves and plays to be done that you wouldn't see in any other capacity because it'd be like, all right, chat, what should I do? No, let them choose everything. And then I think the other thing would be, with the crowd control, it's really more functionalities of like, hey, we can do this to the game. It's a list. It's more of a list. It's less of of like specific things. It's a list of things. And so there's just so many options there. But polling is the next big thing that I see a lot of games do. And the biggest issue I see when they do polls is that they don't enforce the results. What I mean by that is it might be like, hey, the streamer has to go left or right now. Chat said go left, and the streamer's like, well, I'm just going to go right. I guarantee you see a sudden drop off in interactions on the next choice because now the audience knows what's the point. You're not doing what we chose, so why do it? And so I see that mistake get a lot because developers are like, well, I want a choice in this, but they're not in the shoes of an audience member and a streamer that. They're like, well, yeah, I want to be able to have a choice. Well, the whole point of the poll is to not have a choice.
And I think it's a good point, and it shows us that I find it good to listen to our players and viewers to get an idea of where problems exist. But player suggestions. So this can also be seen as a good way to almost focus test in a certain extent. Especially if you've got a game in early access and you're putting it out there. By looking and seeing what people are choosing to do and what they're most interested in from the streaming side, it gives the developers a very good idea of, okay, maybe we need to focus more on that particular feature or level or whatever it may be.
Yeah. It reminds me back in the Twitch Plays Pokemon, when that first came out, it was anarchy and, it's anarchy mode. Someone typed up, you go up. And eventually you got to the point in the game where like we have to implement democracy mode. And you saw this active development happening on stream, essentially, of them updating the game to make it work. And like you can get that with any sort of interaction with these games these days. I see, developers are in chats all the time these days, and it's really great to see. And you can get the good feedback and you can listen to some of them and you can ignore others, but at the end of the day, like this active development is definitely a big part of just live streaming in general. And I think absolutely you can get a lot more information about what works and what doesn't with stuff like this.
Alec says I want sim and colony builder games to have viewer interact. All my sim I've been playing RimWorld a lot, and now I'm just like having nightmares about what my viewers would do if I'm playing RimWorld. I mean, my little peons are already chaotic enough. I don't need more.
One thing I would agree with that is like I'm a huge Diablo fan. Like I love playing the Diablo games. So adding something like a crowd control to like a Diablo 2, which is already every time you play it redoes the map, but now you have them come in and say, okay, I'm going to throw in all of these types of monsters that you're not ready for, or they decide that I'm playing Necromancer, so I have my entire dead army with me, and chat goes, you know what, you don't need that, and then all of a sudden my entire army dies, and I'm like, okay, I guess this is how we're rolling with it.
So And that gets back to the whole, and I guess this is a very much content creator thing, along the same lines of if chat says go left and the streamer goes right, then they're like, all right, I'm done with this. But if you have these hooks and these interactions in there, and then the streamer just like rage quits, I mean that effectively going to be an issue as well. So I'm assuming from the creator standpoint, you can look at the interface for a game and say, okay, here are the ones I want to do. It's not just necessarily all of a sudden everybody has the power and you're on your own.
Yeah. You have the choice. You don't have to just give them the kitchen sink. You can pick and choose what you want in a lot of these interactions. And yeah, again, I think rage quitting though is content. We got a lot of streamers that are like, oh well, it's content, and I will agree to a degree on that. Rage quitting can be content, but it shouldn't always be your content, I think. And like sometimes people will definitely be like, oh well, the chaos of this was content, and it's like not always. So I really do encourage our streamers to go in there and tune it to their stream so that it's not a chaotic mess and that it makes sense for them and their viewers, and not just to rely on that old chaos as content.
Sorry, so here's a solution. It shows us that we used a poll this week to pick a guest, weapon, and skills. It created quite a bit of entertainment. Integrating something like this for all of our streamers on arena battles would be so much fun. But yeah, dev time. And
2 days.
Yeah, no, 2 days. That's what you're talking about. Every engineer out there knows 2 days.
Just take a weekend. It's fine.
Does this work with online as well as offline single player games? Because I mean, I see like a lot of Fortnite creators, for example, and they're like, okay, I'm going to do the legendary challenge or whatever, where I can only use a weapon if it's a legendary. How does it change when you're dealing with multiplayer in general versus you're running a single player game?
Yeah, so for those types of games, we're very careful. When it's a mod of a game, we will not do any sort of online games with mods that have anti-cheat and things like that is going to get somebody banned if you're doing something like that. Because we don't want streamers getting banned, and as much as we'd love to be able to do it, we need to work with the developers on that. So if there's an online game like Fortnite, like if we were able to work with Epic to build that sort of thing, like, hey, I can only pick up legendaries, great, that would be great. But we're very careful with how we implement those sorts of things. Fall Guys is probably the best example I can give you of a game we support that has online, and it's very much a competitive game. We only do negative effects, and it only happens to the computer and not the game. So,
all right, wait, time out. Explain that. So one, what types of interactions do you have in Fall Guys? Because it's very much a straightforward game.
Yeah. So
and two, how does the negative only part work?
Yeah, so we obviously can't make the player go faster or give them super jumps, because that would be cheating in a competitive game, get them banned. So nothing like that. So what we do is we think outside the box on this. So Mario Kart, we're all familiar with the ink splash effect. So we have effects like that will cover your screen in yogurt and paint and things like that. It will display fake elimination or fake completed screens on Fall Guys over top of your game, and we can press buttons, so we can use it. We can interact as a controller, because we're able to. Fall Guys accepts if you have 10 controllers plugged into Fall Guys in your computer, all 10 controllers work. If anyone presses jump on one of them, you're jump. So we add a second controller to your game, and we jump or hold left or make you dive and stuff like that.
That is beyond messed up. That's I didn't even know Fall Guys could do that. I mean, hell, I have hard enough time on my own trying to get through that thing, much less if I've got somebody pushing buttons for me on there.
We got spin the camera. That's a fun one. So yeah, it's all effects that will not benefit you in any way. And so, no one's been banned using it. As far as I know, everyone's had a great time with it. No, people have done like crown challenges and stuff with it, and it's been really fun to see. We actually did when we promoted the pack, we did a promotion where it was the first person to get a crown with crowd control got like 100 gift subs.
Sorry, you caught me like right in the middle of all that. And obviously, I mean, I'm going to say obviously, because I haven't done any coding or engineering in 20 years. When you're doing interactions like that, which are only like things that are popping up on the screen or an overlay, does that require the developer to do anything, or is that just all through the software?
That's all through our software. There's so they didn't require the developer to do anything. One thing with Fall Guys is one of the big things that we do with crowd control is we want to make sure that the effects are happening. We need some sort of validation. And so because we're not actually implementing in the game, luckily Fall Guys has a very verbose logging system that we're able to read from. So we only do effects when the match has started. So your screen won't get covered in ink when you're on the lobby or when you've completed the match. So we're actually able to read that you're in a lobby or not. And that was crucial for us because we don't want people sending effects in and them triggering when you're in your settings menu because you're trying to configure something or you're not ready yet. And so that's something that we look at with all of our games is ensure that the effects happen when you need them to.
So are you seeing, and Tim, I've got another question for you, but I'm sorry, my brain has gone down this rabbit hole at this point. Or are you seeing special mods being created to allow for the incorporation of more of these interactions if the developer themselves is not doing it? I mean, because I'm a huge fan of mods. It's like Skyrim, I don't know how people play it normally anymore. I don't think I could go back and play it normally anymore. And the same with, RimWorld and the Project Zomboid that I've been playing. I love getting good mods in there. For the developers that aren't either willing or able to implement some of this stuff, are you seeing a mod community come up and help facilitate all of that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think and a really good example of it is Cyberpunk 2077. As the game started to get a little bit better and more patches were coming out, people started to create mods within the game to be able to do things that the developers had not made yet or that fans were interested in. So there's always a mod community that exists with a particular game, and that just comes from interest with it. Like you said with Skyrim, the first time I played Skyrim, I had to play vanilla because I needed to at least experience the game. After I've experienced the game, okay, fine, yes, then I will throw in a bunch of mods to it. I'm the same way with Fallout. I have to play the game vanilla first, and then after that, then I can throw in mods. So with the mod community, they always exist because someone has a need for something in a game that the developer has not made yet, or that they are maybe taking their time a little bit to work on. So with stuff like this, even though a game may not be designed for this, something will come up that will provide that opportunity, and then you start to hear from the developer if they're okay with it or if they start going, don't mess with my game. This is my masterpiece that I worked in 2 days. How dare you mess with my game?
2 days.
Because we're trying to make you more money. That's what we're trying to do here. So I mean, hypothetically, one of the ways that you could grow all of this stuff on the crowd control side is by having your own team of mod makers do mods for games that you're not currently integrated in to boost this sort of stuff.
Yeah, and we do. We have quite a few mods like that, and we have an open SDK for modders as well. So it's not just game developers that we support, but we support modders and ourselves.
Wait. It's not just game developers that you support. Does that mean you can like mod Excel and Word or something like that too? Or
we
could
have
crowd interactions on that?
We did crowd control on a Tesla once.
Oh shit!
Yeah, that was
well, that's interesting.
It was a road trip to Games Done Quick in Minnesota, and I remember that there was an API for the car through the app, and I'm like, we were like halfway through the trip, and we stopped at lunch, and I'm like, hold on, we got 2 days. No, we threw it together. Honestly, it was quick, like maybe about 10 effects. Since I knew the system so well, we were able to build Tesla support where the chat was able to change the heat and the radio and honk the horn and things like that. They couldn't steer. That was no go.
You thought they couldn't steer, but I'm somebody out there.
Somebody,
You're just like opening up the Necronomicon at that point.
Yeah, we did a road trip to SGDQ from Chicago, so Chicago to Minnesota. Honking the horn was the most fun. It was $1 to honk the horn, and we were at a drive-through, and they honked the horn 60 times. And I still remember apologizing to the drive-through staff. I'm like, hey, I'm really sorry. The chat's honking the horn. The car's connected to the internet, and her response like, oh, it's okay, I understand.
I don't think you understand, but okay.
I don't think you understand, but okay.
But she may have, and that's the beauty of how our industry has grown. She's like, oh, okay, yeah, you're streaming.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah, Twitch, I got it.
You're one of these idiots that lets the crowd have control over your life at this point. So, oh my God. All right. So rewinding a little bit, Tim, TikTok, because we have seen TikTok grow in terms of usability for indie games and how it has absolutely been integral. What are you seeing from that standpoint in terms of increasing that longevity of the tail? And then, furthermore, what about all these government freak out lockdowns on it?
So one of the nice things, and I actually attended a conference with TikTok to talk about the live streaming and the gaming part of it, and it's been great because you've heard from both developers and content creators talking about what they've used TikTok for, both the regular creation and their live streaming version, to be able to promote games and do games. You get some people that they make content on TikTok for a particular game that they're letting people know that you could do something in a game that maybe people didn't even know, or they find an exploit that will allow a speedrunner to be able to do something that maybe even the dev didn't know. So it's a great way to also test out how the game's doing, plus use it as a marketing campaign. I believe Gearbox was using TikTok to promote Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and it did very well with being able to promote it. But you also had content creators getting on there and showing all of the different things that they could do within the game that helps to encourage people to get on, but also have people want to try out something different. Now we're talking about stuff with TikTok with other countries and all of that stuff. I can't speak to any of that, but yeah.
So my question is it still worthwhile for developers to jump on TikTok, or is this trend where, at least in the US, it's state governments right now. It's not, I don't think the federal government has jumped in it yet, but there's several state governments that have said, okay, you cannot have this on your phone if you work for the government because potential influence from China. Is that a big enough concern to the bigger social media ecosystem that developers need to be looking out for, or is it one of those things that's don't worry about it right now?
Well, I mean, I would definitely say that if you're concerned about it, don't put TikTok on your company phone. I mean, that's
the easy answer. Yes.
I mean, it's an easy answer. Just don't put it on your company phone. Don't put it on your work phone, and boom, that saves a lot of it. But I think it's still worthwhile for developers to use TikTok because it's still a very big platform that is continuing to grow and continuing to listen to its audience. So it's a great platform for them to get on. Plus they can kind of tailor their content a little bit longer. They don't have to worry about making 5, 10, 15-minute YouTube channel or video, I should say, or having to do something on Twitch for a live stream to just talk about a 30-second feature. So TikTok is still a great platform for them to be able to use and to be able to promote stuff on. Just be smart with what you're doing. Don't put on stuff that you don't want to be seen. Don't put it on your work phone if you're worried about that. Don't put it on your work phone and then go to Starbucks and be using it in a Starbucks public Wi-Fi. So it's just a matter of being smart about it.
Yeah, you just ask way too much. That's not. I mean,
I know a common sense should be common, but it's a superpower that you have to be born with, and if you're not born with it, well, I'm sorry.
So I do believe that the government, I think Biden did sign the bill in December for a limited ban on federal government. 4 million employees. The exceptions are law enforcement, national security, and research purposes. So I think that did go into effect. And obviously states have also picked up on it.
All right. So in terms of broader marketing and, user acquisition, whatever, promoting and stuff. So you've got integrations in your game. what are the most effective ways of getting it out there to the public that you've seen? Is it longer streams? Is it shorter, like cut strips for TikTok and YouTube shorts and Instagram reels and all this other stuff? Or what are the most effective ways of showing your community all this cool stuff, without completely reinventing the wheel?
Yeah, we've seen large success in them doing just a stream with it and then cutting the content into like the really fun moments with the effects happening. A compilation reel or a sizzle reel, really, of what you've done as a content creator. When you're playing a game with any sort of interactions, you're going to have moments that are going to be much more fun than others, and so there might be a really great timed kill player. We see a lot of times in games where just at the right time, just the invert controls activated and then the player falls down something because it just like it happened and you're holding up, but now you went down and you fell down. So like stuff like that's really fun because you see it. But the bigger thing is like, reverse controls is a big effect, but it's not visual. That's the biggest thing I would say is any effect that's visual is the better effect to showcase in these sizzle reels. Having like kill players very obvious because your player's standing and then all of a sudden they're crouching and they're falling and they're dead and the screen says you died. Very easy to understand. Setting the player on fire, really easy to see. So things like that where it really where you really can see what's happening without really knowing anything, especially if you don't even know the game. That's the best part. Like you might not know Dark Souls at all as a viewer browsing somebody's social media, but if you see like all of a sudden like 5 enemies pop up, you're like, okay, that's weird. And then all of a sudden they just kill them. Like you're like, yeah, that's funny. You just get that. You get that.
So this is all PC only right now. I mean, am I wrong there, or is it something that you can see moving to mobile games, to console titles as well?
Yeah, we want to support console games. Definitely possible with our integrations. Right now, it is very much PC. We actually do support actual Super Nintendo, like the actual hardware, through Black Magic and USB. But that's not official support, obviously. So we'd love to have actual games bring this in. We've made a big push towards integrations with games in the last year or so, and continue to make that push. So there are inside the game is the menu for crowd control to activate it and have everything. So there's nothing required on the desktop software itself other than the game. So that would very easily translate to your Switch and Xbox and PlayStation. And mobile games, yeah, we would love to see a mobile game. Obviously, there are streamers that do mobile game streams. Finding the right game that makes sense for this interaction, it would be great. I don't play too many mobile games myself these days, but I'm sure there's games out there that would make perfect use of this sort of technology.
So part of me wants to see something like this for Pokemon Go, but then another part of me is like, absolutely do not touch that.
All right. So question for both of you. Tim, I want you to go first. Given where this technology and these opportunities have come in the last 12 months, where do you want to see them go in the next, year to 2 years?
I would love to see not only more games becoming available that have already been released, but starting to see more games that have this type of interaction already built into them, which would be great. And then one of the things too that's always nice about this is that there should be an on and off switch on it. If you want to do it, cool, turn it on. If you don't want to do it, turn it off. But having that option available is, I think, what's going to help a lot of different games going forward, and being able to add them into different genres of games that maybe someone didn't even think about this, and seeing it becoming incorporated into it and having that option available.
Yeah, I mean, I will agree with all of that, especially the on-off switch. We understand that this is not for everyone and it's not for every single game out there, but there's a huge amount of space, or there's a big market for it, and there's a large crowd that is interested in this. So it's definitely something that we want to make sure that the right people are using, and so having an on and off switch makes sense. I don't want to get too specific because there are some things that we are working on that's going to make this even more accessible to more things, and I don't want to give it too much away. That can be for another podcast maybe. But we have some grand visions of where this is going to be going in the next year. Outside of the support that we've mentioned, where it's going to be more than just Twitch and it's going to be YouTube and others. That's going to open up a whole new, I guess, like amount of users essentially that no one has thought of yet, I think. And so we have the vision, we have the software, we have the technology. We just need the games.
All right. Well, from one of our developers, from Bjorn on YouTube, what is the perfect setup technically and creatively for a game to support crowd control?
I mean, are we talking like, so Unity is one of the best engines for crowd control right now because it's one of our most tested plugins. So I would say perfect setup would be Unity, but Unreal, Game Maker, anything C# based, very accessible, and we're always adding more engines. But anything that, like, I think games that already have a sandbox mode are probably lends itself very well to crowd control, because sandbox modes already allow for a lot of crazy customization and stuff. And so now you're just giving those same tools to the viewers why somebody else is playing the game. And so I think a sandbox game is perfect for that. It's probably a really good creativity driven game. And so I would see that would be one perfect setup is anything sandbox mode. Again, we don't want to encroach in a game developer's vision with story and stuff. If they're cool with crowd control during a single player thing, great. But we also recognize, like, you might have a story that you're really trying to tell. And so if you have like modes outside of that are also in the game, then crowd control is perfect for that without encroaching on your story and changing your narrative.
Excellent. There we go. All right. So we've got, about 5-10 more minutes here. So if you've got questions, anything about this from promotion, from the content creation side, from the, triggers and what kind of messed up stuff we can do with the game side, drop them in chat now and we'll get them answered. Next one from Lantana Games on Twitch. Does crowd control need to be implemented directly into a game, or can it run alongside it?
Yeah, it does not need to be implemented directly inside the game. I gave the example of Fall Guys being an interaction that's not necessarily in Fall Guys, but still works alongside of it. A lot of our games that are mods of our games are mods that you put into the game, but all of that does is create some sort of connection between crowd control and the game, and it's not actually doing much. It's just doing this communication layer, and that still runs with our desktop software. But then there's games like we released Cuphead, where it's drop-in files, but all the interactions, all the setups inside the game now. So you go into the options and you see a crowd control option as if it was built into the game, and you link your Twitch and you're good to go. So we have lots of different ways of doing it. Developer.crowdcontrol.live, if I can say, it's got some information that will help you.
So what are people doing in Cuphead?
Oh, so Cuphead's a really fun one because one of the effects allows you to zoom out the camera, and you can really see how the game was built because of that. So as a game developer, a lot of people know that you load assets in that world, but you hide them. And then when it's time for them to show up, they're already loaded, so you just move them. And so you can see like enemies that are like staying off to the side still because you zoomed out the camera further than what they normally see. You get to kind of see how the bosses work in that regard. There's the Tombstone boss. He's like above the level at the entire time. And then when you kill I don't remember the first boss part of that fight, but once you kill him, he just instantly drops down because he's always been there. And you think like he's transformed, but it's a completely different asset. We allow you to, we added double jump before they added chalice. So I think they saw that and like, oh, let's add that to a character. No, but swap. We allow you, we can force swap your character. One really fun one is we have ultra weapon, where it's firing every single weapon at the same time. So it's like all weapons are engaged, and it's really fun to see. Makes you really powerful.
Wow, it's funny because a lot of it is like one of the little superpowers, the tricks that you're doing is literally like pulling back the curtain on game dev. And yeah. Even my son is like, I've started he'll pull up something on YouTube, and it's different people that are taking like 2D games and turning them into 3D games, and they explain how everything is laid out. And I'm sitting there half the time going, "Oh hell, I didn't even know that." But okay, that's good. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be something that is specifically affecting a level or whatever. You can literally use it to just pull back the curtain a little bit.
Yeah, we actually, one of the effects, it doesn't do anything negative or positive. It literally just adds a health bar to the bosses, so you can see how much health they've taken. And like that was really fun to see, because like you never know in that game like how weak they are or whatnot. And we're like, yeah, let's add it because the game keeps track, so let's show it.
All right, so this is the fun part for both of you. And Tim, you can start. This is your opportunity to plug whatever you want to plug. So. So shoot it, and then we'll be getting out and letting y'all have your day back. But Tim, plug your pluggable. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's been fun talking about all of this because, like I said, I did my master's degree thesis based on all of this, and it was fun to be able to back then in 2016 to be able to talk about all of this and predict where the future was going to go with it, and being able to see it now and kind of go, wow, past me was actually thinking about this, which is so awesome. But for myself, besides working with Player 2, I'm also a content creator. You can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/gamerenchantment. I actually just recently moved, so I'm doing my first stream from my new location on Monday, which is going to be kind of nice because I haven't streamed in like 2.5, almost 3 months. So it's actually maybe I'll throw in some crowd control with a game on my first stream to kind of see how people want to mess with me in my new place.
You have a whole lot of catching up to do.
Oh yeah, I know I do.
All right, Jaku, how can people find you? What do you want to plug?
Yeah, Jaku on Twitch and Twitter are my main social medias. I have started streaming again finally. After a long hiatus, I started reverse engineering some applications on my stream. I don't do too much games these days, more just development sort of stuff and shenanigans. So if you're into that sort of thing, you can definitely find me there. But for the company itself, Crowd Control on Twitter, and like I said earlier, developer.crowdcontrol.live is going to be your best resource for finding anything developer related. It has our links to our socials and our Discord and our GitHub and all that stuff.
And obviously, they are both available on the Discord as well. Just look for the bright yellow section entitled Guest of the Show, because they have that illustrious title now. But yes, you're so special. It's awesome.
I'm special.
But yeah, all right. So my turn to plug. Check out our new free online classes on how to find a publisher and then how to evaluate your publisher and your publishing contract. Those are on Teachable. So just go to indiegamebusiness.teachable.com. Tickets went live this morning for our next Indie Game Business Conference, and that's going to be the 8th and the 9th. So you don't have to wait to GDC to start pitching your game. You can start pitching it like the month before or a couple of weeks before. As always, passes to the lectures and sessions are free. And if you want to do the meeting system, it's a simple little $50 ticket, or type in friend of IGB and it takes a load off of that ticket. But yes, with that is our show for today. Next week, we are going to be talking with, let me pull this up, Michael Brown from Vicarious PR, and I would love to tell you what he's talking about, but I don't know off the top of my head because Dan's not here and I can only have so many screens open at once. But I guarantee you it's going to have to do something with marketing.
Good guess.
So thank you, everybody. Tim, Jaku, thank you so much for joining us. And then, we'll see you all in a week.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Bye, everybody.